things on the news, if you do, or read the things, how do you feel like you're getting the truth? Do you feel like what you see is different than what you hear when you're down there? How does all that affect you guys?
I feel like they kind of buff up the news to make it more exciting and interesting to read.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Not all of it is what it actually is.
Right, right.
Probably if the people who are writing the news went down and looked at the things and went to Mexico, they probably would write a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Very likely. Did you guys make it out to the East Cape while you were there?
Yes.
You did? Okay, good.
Yeah, we went to Nine Palms.
So how would you describe the East Cape to somebody that's never been there before?
It's like dirt roads, and then there's just little bits of, like, development. It's kind of weird.
There's houses. It's interesting because I don't know this for sure, but it doesn't seem as though there's a lot of, like, there were a lot of communities there. Like, there's not, like, big communities there before, like, tourism started going there, before surfing, before people discovered how, like, there's good surfing there.
On the East Cape.
On the East Cape, and it's a lot of different, like, small communities, and then just, like, houses, like, sparsely peppered here and there.
Desolate and remote.
Desolate and remote,
and
yeah.
uncrowded.
Uncrowded, yeah.
And warm water.
Warm water. Definitely warm water, much warmer than where we're from.
Yeah, so, again, a note to the listeners here. Your grandfather, who surfed every single morning up there in San Luis Obispo,
doesn't anymore.
Would put on a wet wetsuit every morning in the frigid, cold, 40 or 50-degree water. He was an absolute man. And after several years of coming down to visit your guys' family in Cabo when you lived there, got so spoiled by the warm water. Is it still true he won't surf?
He won't surf. And he does not surf in warm water, or cold water. And he doesn't really surf in warm water either.
Oh.
He used to, when he was done surfing, he would put his wetsuit in a ice chest, like in a cooler.
Yeah.
In a cooler full of ice water.
So my reason for bringing that up is that I was wondering actually last night when I was talking to my wife, to Auntie Amy, about you guys, that so you just, Elias, this is the longest stint that you've had down there surfing. Like, I know you've made some surf trips in the past, but you surfed every day, sometimes twice, for 3 weeks in warm water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little bit more than 3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, you think you're going to be as into surfing when you go back to having to wear a full suit even then in the summertime?
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Are you going to give up?
No.
No? Okay, good. And you guys mentioned going to Hangman's. I know your dad and mom love that place. I love it too. Did you guys go? So Hangman's, do your best to describe what Hangman's is to the listeners.
It's like if somebody had a delicious restaurant that serves Mexican food, and then they took a museum and a really old antique shop, kind of like buried it in the sand for like a century, and then
hanged everything on the walls and from the roof.
Yeah, in the restaurant, like put it all together.
So, do you remember going there before they remodeled it?
No.
So it's still pretty rustic and different,
definitely
right?
very rustic.
It's much, much, much more refined today than it was 15, 20 years ago. Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Do you know the
what
reason why they
like
call
before.
it the Hangman?
I think so. My dad told me that they had. It was in Mexico, the mainland. And it was during a war, which I don't remember. And it was the tree on their property was where they used to hang
the bad guys.
The bad guys, yeah.
And then the people who lived there moved to Baja and started the restaurant, and they called it Hangman's.
Pretty close. And we'd have to check with Sergio on this. Did you guys get to meet Sergio or see Sergio when you were down there?
No.
Sergio's a good friend of ours whose family owns the restaurant, and he's a surfer as well. But Sergio's told me the story, and it's somewhat along those lines, but their family owned this property that had this tree in the front of it, and the tree was the known place where they did hang people back earlier in time. But they started a restaurant there in mainland somewhere, and I don't remember where it was, but they didn't have a name for the restaurant. The people just that came to eat in their front yard, they called it the Hangman because that was the place where they did hang people. So that just moved along with them to their front yard in Baja. Because you know that's in front of a house.
Really?
Yeah, there's a house. They live, the family, I don't think Sergio still lives there, but he grew up in the house that's behind the restaurant there.
Huh.
So.
That's cool.
I never knew that.
So again, big plug for Hangman's Taco Shop in San Jose Del Cabo. It has some very unique tacos there. You can get cactus tacos, you can get squash tacos, and they have
the regular tacos are delicious as well.
Carne asada.
Yep.
Carne asada.
Carne asada, exactly. And they have some very, very, very hot sauce.
Yes.
Do you guys eat that?
I like the potatoes.
The one time I went down there, I ate their potatoes. And then it was so hot, I put my hands to my face, and like a day later, my face was like there was a rash, a burn from where I put my hands. They had the habanero on it.
So it burned the outside of your skin.
Yeah.
I was there one time with a friend, and he ate that white habanero sauce.
Oh, boy.
You know, that looks like cream, but it's actually hot sauce. He ate way too much of that, and he actually had to leave. He got sick. He was throwing up because he ate too much of it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Well, so what else? What else did you guys do when you were down there? Is that pretty much it? Work on the house, surf, and make videos.
We did one day. We went. We took the car and we drove up the arroyo looking for rocks to put in the house.
Huh?
Off-roading
and we
desert.
both got a turn to drive the car. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was
So
really
getting
fun.
some driving instruction.
Yeah.
And you said the word arroyo. There's maybe people that are listening to the podcast that don't know what that is.
It's a dry riverbed.
Okay, yeah. And you're referring to the arroyo that's right out.
Yeah, it's
behind
the
our
Costa
house.
Azul,
Right.
yeah. And we had a run-in with the law.
Oh.
When my brother was off-roading, my brother Miles, when he was off-roading, my mom, she was like, be careful, we want to stay on the right side of the area so that if a car comes around the corner, we don't hit them. And then 30 seconds later, the federal police, or the federales, come around the corner.
Uh-oh.
And we stop, and my mom switches seats with him. And then they come back, and they look in, and they're smiling, and then they drive off.
So not a real run-in.
Not in a real run-in, but it was.
But wait,
pretty
you guys
fun.
let Miles drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
gosh.
was.
You could hardly see over the steering wheel.
How old is Miles? 9?
He's 10.
10,
He's
okay.
10.
Man, I think I'm glad I wasn't down there when Miles was driving.
Yeah. But that was like the only people we saw.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
It's kind of nice to have that arroyo back out behind the house.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Very
Owen,
pretty.
You said you were ready to be back home. Elias, I kind of got the feeling that you weren't ready to be back home.
Yeah, I like it down there. It's more like it's more desolate, I guess. There's less people, and I don't know. I like it more, I guess.
Well, you're kind of a lucky kid because your parents, at least at this point, own a home down there. Do you see yourself spending more time down there as you get older?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, this sounds kind of like I'm kind of ungrateful, but being down there and surfing, swimming, making videos, working on the house, and doing that for 3 weeks, a 3-week vacation sounds really fun, but it actually, during the last week, it can kind of get, like, repetitive. Definitely, like, I was ready for something new. Yeah.
How about you, Elias?
I mean, there's a lot of other things to do down there. We just weren't doing it, I think, because we were working on the house mostly.
Yeah. Did you guys hang out with any of the Mexican kids? Surf with the Mexican kids?
Not really.
No.
No, not really.
What about in the water? Did you guys talk to the kids surfing in the water?
I did a little bit. Yeah, they were nice.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
I mean, my dad. It was cool that one of the guys out there actually rode the bus from like the neighborhoods with his surfboard to go surfing. It's just realized like, wow, we have it really good. We can drive our own car, or we're right in front of the beach where we stay there. You don't have to get on a bus to get to the beach.
Yeah.
So what does that make you think about the kids that have to go through that much effort to get to the beach? I mean,
it's impressive that they
Yeah.
even do it.
Yeah.
It's neat that they still get to do that. You know,
Yeah.
that all of us enjoy the same thing. Some of us have to work a little harder to get that. Yeah.
Definitely. Really shows you how much they enjoy it.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So was the water temperature nice?
Definitely.
Yeah. My
Lot
mom
warmer.
told me, your grandma told me that last few days you pretty much all had enough sun and were ready to get out of the sun. Was that part of it too?
Yeah, it was. Well, I'm very sensitive to sun, and I can get heat stroke really easily. So, yeah, it was really very, very hot. Very. We were there in the summer, and most people go there in the winter because it's a lot more mild temperatures than in the summer.
So what would you want to tell your friends that are either scared or concerned or don't know anything about Baja? Would you recommend that they go, and what would you tell them? What are some tips and pointers for them?
Definitely to go, and that you don't have to be scared. The people are like the same as how they are in the States, if not like nicer and more friendly. And I don't know, I don't have a lot of experience with this, but it seemed relatively safe, and like it didn't seem like I was like always looking out for myself. It seemed pretty comfortable.
So Elias, what would you tell your friends about it?
Well, I would tell them if they were surfers that there was really good surf. If not, otherwise, there's a bunch of other things to do there. You can go on the zip lines they have. You can go horseback riding. I had a friend that did that. And that it's a cool place to be.
Yeah. So you're home now and back to regular life here in the next day or so. What are you guys planning for your next trip down there? Do you know?
I don't... Actually, my dad's going to go down there in the next 2 weeks to try and finish the house.
Oh, he's going back.
Yeah, I don't know other than that.
I like that your dad is disguising the need to go back to work on the house with just needing to go back to Mexico. I like that. He's got something figured out there, doesn't he?
He wants to serve.
Yeah. And so do you guys ever think about how strange it is that you have parents that were willing to move and live in a different country or take you on these kind of adventures as a family?
Not really. It seems kind of I don't know. It's not that it seems normal, but it doesn't seem extraordinarily like out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Do you guys know much about the trip that your mom and dad took when they got married?
A little bit.
Yeah.
So we're referring listeners to my sister and her husband were married for about a year, and then they took off on a round-the-world surf trip where they bought those plane tickets that you go one direction. And I think the reason I'm asking you guys about that is that that's really it paints a picture of the kind of parents you have.
Yeah.
How would you describe your parents?
They love to do things. They want to be with us and do things with us. They don't want to sit around and not do nothing.
Is that a good thing?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a great thing.
Why is it a great thing?
Because I like to do things.
Yeah. They're very
energetic
and active.
Adventurous
Adventurous as well, yeah.
Not scared of things?
Not scared of
I
things.
can tell you my sister's not scared of hardly anything.
No.
I'll tell you guys a quick story. I probably have never shared this with you guys, listeners. This isn't Baja. This is Indonesia. But so during my sister's around-the-world trip with her husband, Jeremiah, sister's name is Shelley, my wife and I, or fiancé at the time, caught up with them in Indonesia. And we had been having sporadic phone conversations prior to us meeting up with them, but they'd been in Indonesia for about a month by the time we got there. Mm-hmm. And the last phone conversation we'd had was that they were going to arrange a trip for us to go. We were going to charter a boat for about a week. And your mom and dad had already had kind of a sketchy scenario on a much smaller boat where I know your mom got really scared. This was still pretty sketchy, but the story that I'm going to tell you is not about the boat. It's about us arriving to this famous surf break called Desert Point on Lombok. And I got off the airplane, was in Bali for 2 or 3 hours, and then we got on a boat and motored all night, and then woke up